الحمد لله رب العالمين ولا عاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله صلى الله عليه وعلى آله وأصحابه وسلم أجمعين أما بعد. اللهم إن رأيتني أبتعد عنك فردني إليك ردا جميلا. اللهم إن رأيتني أبتعد عنك فردني إليك ردا جميلا. اللهم إن رأيتني أبتعد عنك فردني إليك ردا جميلا. We begin inshallah ta'ala this morning dars bi'idhnillah with a tremendous dua, and we know it from the custom and also from the sunnah of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam that he would repeat three times. It's better for emphasis. It's also better to grasp when you hear it more than one time so that it can stick. And the dua that we begin this dars with is the statement, "O Allah, if you see me distance myself, if you see me moving further away from you, O Allah, if you witness me moving further away from you, then return me back unto you with a beautiful return. O Allah, if you see me distance myself, or you see me further myself away from you, then return me back to you with a beautiful return. O Allah, if you see me distancing myself or further myself away from you, then return me back unto you with a beautiful return. Ameen." Alhamdulillah, today's dars, we will talk about the beauty of ad-dua. Do you know what the beauty of dua is? And what will make you know what is the beauty of dua? It is a tremendous dua that the Prophet ﷺ has shared with his daughter, his bint, Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha, as is reported in An-Nasa'i, or reported by An-Nasa'i in his Kubra, his Sunan Kubra, on the authority of Anas ibn Malik radiallahu ta'ala anhu, where he mentioned that the Messenger of Allah ﷺ said to his daughter Fatima radiallahu ta'ala anha, "ما يمنعك أن تسمعي ما أوصيك به أن تقولي إذا أصبحت وإذا أمسيت اللهم لا تكلني إلى نفسي طرفة عين." And this tremendous dua, the Prophet ﷺ instructed his daughter. He said, "What prevent you from hearing or listening to me when I advise you that you should say," and this is the dua that he advised her with, "O Allah," this is the dua that the Prophet ﷺ advised his daughter Fatima with, "O Allah, do not leave me to myself for the blinking of an eye." He mentions here, he starts off by saying, "Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum birahmatika astaghithu aslih li sha'ni kulluhu la takilni ila nafsi turfatu ayn." So he starts off by saying, "Oh Ya Hayyu Ya Qayyum, you're the ever living, the Qayyum, the one who is ever living, self-subsistent." He mentions, "With your mercy I seek, astaghithu, I seek your aid, I seek from you that you do what? Astaghithu, aslih li sha'ni kulluhu, that you rectify all of my affairs, that you rectify all of my affairs, that you correct all of my affairs, and do not leave me to myself for the blinking of an eye." A tremendous dua that we did a while back, the actual explanation, or one of the explanations of this tremendous dua, and this is not the time to go into that sharh to this particular dua, but we wanted to bring that to show you The beauty of dua, the importance of a connection with the abd, bain Allah, or bain Rabb, with the servant with Allah, with the servant with his Lord, the servant with her Lord. That's the beauty of dua. One of the other things about the beauty of dua is that it actualizes what we call tawakkul, which is a concept of understanding totally relying on Allah, totally placing your trust in Allah Azza wa Jal. Dua does that. When a person offers dua, a person is placing tawakkul in their Rabb. Likewise, another beauty of dua is that a person is placing their hope. Dua gives an individual hope. All right? It doesn't give a person baseless hope, but it gives a person a real hope that they can have in their Lord Azza wa Jal. The following dua that we're going to discuss today is the tafsir of the verses that comes in Surah Ibrahim, which is the dua made by Ibrahim, who is known as the father of Deen, the father of our Deen, Ibrahim. Not like the father of humanity, which is Adam alayhi salatu wasalam, but it's Ibrahim who is the father of our Deen, as Allah Jalla wa Ala mentions in his book, fi Surah Al-Hajj. Allah also mentioned that it was Ibrahim himself who was the one who named us Muslims. Nonetheless, Allah Jalla wa Ala mentioned that Ibrahim, he says in a tremendous dua, وإذ قال إبراهيم رب اجعل هذا بلدا آمنا واجنبني وبني أن نعبد الأصنام نعبد أصنام. It's a tremendous dua. The first thing that we see Ibrahim, when he makes this dua, he makes the dua for the land or the city, or the land which he was residing in, as well as for his offspring to be protected from the worship of what? Of idols, things that worship other than Allah Azza wa Jal. Wadhkur Ibrahim alayhi salam, meaning mention the story of Ibrahim in regards to this beautiful state or condition that we found him in. وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ رَبِّ اجْعَلْ هَذَا بَلَدًا. And remember when Ibrahim, he says, "Oh my Lord, make this balad, Mecca, make this balad, this town, Al-Haram, Amin, make it safe, make it a place of security." فاستجاب الله دعاءه شرعا وقدرا فحرمه الله في شرع ويسر من أسباب حرماته قدرا ما هو معلوم. And we already know, for those of us who can witness and with eyes, and those of us who Allah blessed us to travel far over to Mecca, that we see that it is actually fruitful, plentiful, bountiful, as well as being protected, right? As we see what's going on over there in the Haram and the pilgrims that travel to this particular region. So Ibrahim alayhi salam offering dua for this sacred place. Allah Jalla wa Ala answered both legislatively as well as in decree. All right? حتى إنه لم يرده ظالم بالسوء إلا قصه الله كما فعل بأصحاب الفيل وغيرهم. Also, Allah Jalla wa Ala also made sure that no harm come to Ibrahim alayhi salam. Even in the issue that took place, as it was done with the people of Ashab al-Fil, the elephants, and other than them, because this particular place is protected. We know that with the grandfather of the Prophet ﷺ, when Abra, the Ethiopian, was one to come to destroy the Kaaba, he said that the Kaaba has a Lord and protector, as we know in that famous story. And nonetheless, Allah Jalla wa Ala allowed the elephants not to move, and Allah sent the birds down to send down, make clay upon them. So Allah protected Mecca even from the onslaught of these people trying to destroy it. And that's the point we can see the dua being tangible, the dua that Ibrahim made for this particular place. He continues, Ibrahim, he says, رَبِّ إِنَّهُنَّ أَضْلَلْنَ كَثِيرًا مِنَ النَّاسِ فمن تبعني فإنه مني ومن عصاني فإنك غفور رحيم. So in this tremendous next part of the dua, Ibrahim alayhi salam, he says, our Lord, my Lord, indeed they will lead many people astray, or they have led many people astray, min al-nas. All right, here we understand that he's talking about the fact of the idols, these things that they worship other than Allah Azza wa Jal. Many people have went astray due to the false belief of believing in that there were idols, or that these idols have any divine power, or that these idols can do anything. Even though they themselves carved the idols and knew that the idols can hear, speak, talk, etc., it still led many people from mankind astray. فَمَنْ تَبِعَنِي مِنِّي. Ibrahim said, whoever alone follows me is of me. Okay? And whosoever disobeys me, فَإِنَّكَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. Indeed, you, Allah Jalla wa Ala, is the all-forgiving, the most merciful. And this is beautiful that Ibrahim alayhi salam has made a dua such as this. Because here Ibrahim did not say, whoever not from me destroy. Okay, Ibrahim alayhi salam did not say, whoever does not follow me, destroy me, Allah. He didn't make that dua. Notice what he says, whoever follows me, okay, whoever practices at Tawheed, whoever is a muwahid, then, oh Allah Jalla wa Ala, he is of me. This individual is of me, whether male or female. All right, if they follow the correct way, then they are of me. But whoever disobeys me, and that which you have commissioned me to do, and that which you have sent me to do, to call them unto, then you are their Lord. You are the one that can exact retribution from them. You are the one that can punish them. So, oh Allah, meaning that it is you, the all-forgiving and the most merciful, you decide their state. It's not up to me to decide their state. It's you who is their Rabb, is to decide their state. That's an important factor that we should take in consideration, especially when we deal with dawah and how to understand about the deen. It doesn't give us the right, because Allah Jalla wa Ala has blessed you to practice an aspect of the deen, or certain aspects of the deen, to feel so righteous that you can now take control of the deen itself, whereas though you can start putting people in hellfire or putting people in heaven. That's not your job, that's not your role. Or that you can punish people in regards to that. That's not your job, nor your role. That's the role of Allah Azza wa Jal. And you see this not only with Ibrahim, but you also see this with Isa alayhi salam, when he mentioned to Allah Azza wa Jal, as long as I was down there, I witnessed what they were doing, but you are the one who you can punish them if you will, and you can have mercy on them if you will. Still leaving the decision, which it is, recognizing that the decision is left with Allah and not with himself. Extremely important to understand, which is also debunk the concept that he called people to worship him. Because if that was the case, why would he be delegating the affair of rule and decision making left to his Lord rather than himself? Anyway, continuing. So Ibrahim, he mentions Dallu bisababiha, meaning that they have went astray, mankind went astray, many of them, due to the worship of these idols. فَمَنْ تَبِعَنِي, and when he says, whosoever follow me, he means عَلَى مَا جِئْتُ بِهِ مِنَ التَّوْحِيدِ وَإِخْلَاصُ لِلَّهِ رَبِّ الْعَالَمِينَ. Meaning whoever follows me and that which I came with, from what? From at-tawheed, and from ikhlas, sincerity unto Allah Azza wa Jal, the Lord of all that exists. فَإِنَّهُ مِنِّي, and when he says rather he is of me, لِتَمَامُ مُوَافِقَ وَمَنْ أَحَبَّ قَوْمٍ وَاتَّبَعَهُمْ أَتَحَقُّ بِهِمْ, meaning that completely this person is in compliance to that which I have came with. So this person is doing what? This person is the one who is beloved to me of my followers, right? And deserving of it because of what? Of the simple fact that they are following along in that call of his. وَمَنْ أَصَانِي, whoever disobeys me, فَإِنَّكَ غَفُورٌ رَحِيمٌ. وَهَذَا مِنْ شِفْقَةِ الْقَلِيلِ. This shows us the affection. This shows us the concern that Ibrahim alayhi salam had for the ummah. حَيْثُ دَعَى لِلْعَاصِينَ, whereas he had made dua for the people who are sinners. بِمَغْفِرَةِ وَالرَّحْمَةِ مِنَ اللَّهِ, with asking Allah to forgive them and have mercy upon them. Wallahu tabarak wa ta'ala rahamu minhu bi'ibadihi. And Allah is more merciful than him towards his servants. لا يؤذب إلا من تمرد عليه. Allah Jalla wa ala does not punish except those who turns away from him completely, or those who drive away from him completely. Then the next part of his dua, Ibrahim, he says, رَبَّنَا إِنِّي أَسْكَنْتُ مِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي بِوَادٍ غَيْرِ ذِي زَرْعٍ عِنْدَ بَيْتِكَ الْمُحَرَّمِ رَبَّنَا لِيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ فَاجْعَلْ أَفْئِدَةً مِنَ النَّاسِ تَهْوِي إِلَيْهِمْ وارزقهم من الثمرات لعلهم يشكرون. Tremendous, tremendous, tremendous. ربنا إني أسكنت من ذريتي. Extremely important to understand this. He said, our Lord, إني أسكنت, I have caused to dwell from my offspring into this valley. All right? That doesn't have any springs in it. In other words, it doesn't have anything that generates water. It's like a barren land, okay? It's like barren, it's dry. It doesn't have any water in it whatsoever, right? In the Baitik al-Muharram, it is near and close to your sacred precinct, right? This is where I have caused my offspring to dwell. And we already know what he's talking about. He's talking about Ismail, alayhi salatu salam, and his wife, when he was instructed by Allah to leave them there. All right? Let's imagine that. In today's society, some of the things that we are tested with and tried with, we don't take the time out to look at the stories that came before us and try to grab some inspiration from that. All right? Imagine leaving your family. Now, if an individual loses his job or loses a form of employment and his family goes through some type of hardship, there are statements that are made from either the family themselves, from either the folks, whether it's the wives or the husbands, that shows that they don't understand the way things work in terms of patience. Patience is not only, as we always talk about, a coping mechanism, but patience is really a strong thing to have. It's actually a armor, if you will. It's a weapon, if you will. Sabr is a weapon. Sabr is something that you hold on. It's like a lifeline. It's a lifeboat. That's what it is. You're not going to be living in this life just everything's a bed of roses. You're going to have to utilize certain things to get along. But imagine just leaving your family somewhere in a barren land and your wife just has a newborn baby. Okay? A newborn baby. You really don't have anything. You know how sometimes, we're tested with the woman having to use the formula and not use, for whatever reason, she's not able to produce enough milk within her breast to feed the child. But let's imagine being destitute and left. So here is a prophet from Allah Azza wa Jalla leaving his family in a barren land. But did he leave them and did not do anything? No. He offered dua. One of the best forms of love that you can express to another person is dua. And sometimes we do not understand the power of dua. If a person offered dua for you, brothers and sisters, that's more better for you than them giving you something that you immediately wanted. That's more better than them giving you money, etc., etc., etc. Anything they're doing you because dua is them specifically making dua to Allah Azza wa Jalla to protect you and so forth. So offering dua is a strong form of love. It is a strong form of expression, right? Because the one who can do something is Allah Azza wa Jalla. And a person who's making dua on your behalf to your Lord for you, that's a strong form of love. Do you understand that? So look at Ibrahim. Okay, he didn't have anything to feed them or to give them water, but he did something else. He made dua to Allah Azza wa Jalla. So he says, رب إني أسكنت من ذريتي واد غير ذي زرع عند بيتك المحرم وذلك أنه أتى بحاجة إسماعيل وابنها يعني Ismail, and that is what? He's talking about the incident when he came with his wife, Hajar, who was the mother of Ismail, and her son Ismail, when he had left them at that time of suckling, right? And we know that he had other offspring. He had another offspring which was Ishaq, all right? He had Ishaq. Ishaq was not there, okay? And he had left Ismail with his mother in this valley, which is known as Mecca, right? And it really didn't have any dwellings there, right, for them to actually live at this time. Meaning, in order to have anything for them to call, invite, or someone to answer, فَلَمْ وَضَعَهَا دَعَى رَبَّهُ بِهَذَا الدُّعَاء. So when she conceived and gave birth to Ismail, this is when Ibrahim makes the dua to his Lord with this supplication. فَقَالَ مُتَضَرِّعًا مُتَوَكِّلًا عَلَى رَبِّهِ. And it's important to understand it. Look at the characteristics that he had when he offered the dua. So he said he made it out of complete humbleness and submissiveness unto Allah Azza wa Jalla, as well as relying on Allah. All right, mutawakkil on Allah Azza wa Jalla. Okay, he made this dua. He says, رَبَّ إِنِّي أَسْكَنْتُ مِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي أي لا كل ذُرِّيَّتي, meaning not all of my offspring, right? Not all of them. وَبَاقِي مِنْهُ كَذَلِكَ إِنَّمَا أَسْكَنْ فِي مَكَّةِ, which shows us the importance to offer dua for your children and for their children. This is a good sign. You offer dua for your children and their children. Don't be like the individual who says, I offer dua and this still happened to my son, or I offer dua and this still happened to my daughter, or I offer dua and this still happened to my grandchild. Offer dua to Allah Jalla wa Ala, being sincere to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There is not a dua that is made, whether from a Muslim or a non-Muslim, except that Allah heard it. All right? And for a believer, we know that there is not a dua that is made following the proper conditions, except that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not only heard it, but it has been answered. Following the proper conditions, that it wasn't prevented from being answered, we know that the dua has been heard and it has been answered. This is for the believer. We know specifically that. And then we also have been informed in authenticated hadith that there are du'as, whether from a non-believer, that is also answered, and such as the du'a of someone who is being oppressed. So we know for sure that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala do not allow anyone to call on him and just let them go away with empty hands, so to speak. All right, and these are firm convictions that you should have within your faith and your iman when you offer dua. Ibrahim alayhi salam is making a tremendous dua here. Tayyib. So look what he says here. Continuing, he says, and look what he ended with. So one of the things I want us to get to understand is the importance of salah, right? So not only did he offer dua for his offspring, all right, he's offering dua that they be of those who establish the connection between them and their Rabb. All right? This is why this debunked the concept of allowing your children to decide what they're going to be. Oh, yeah, I don't force deen onto my child. I allow my child to figure out what they want to be. No. That's incorrect. It's incorrect for multiple reasons, but one, if you believe what you're upon is the actual haqq, why would you allow your child to go out here and fend for themselves and figure out what is the haqq and you have actually believe that you follow the haqq? No, you want to give and enjoy the haqq upon your child. So he continues. He says, رَبَّنَا لِيُقِيمُوا الصَّلَاةَ أي اجعلهم موحدين مقيمين الصلاة. Meaning, oh Allah, make them people who worship only you, who are muwahid, who have negation and affirmation, who do not join partners along with you, and who do not negate your total exclusivity, that you're the one deserving to only be worshipped, right? So he mentions this. And make them those who establish the prayer regularly, consistently, constantly. They don't give up, right? وَاصْبِرْ, right? As Allah says, وَاصْبِرْ مَعَ الَّذِينَ يَدْعُونَ رَبَّهُم بِالْغَدَاةِ وَالْعَشِيِّ يُرِيدُونَ وَجْهَهُ وَلَا تَعْدُ عَيْنَاكَ عَنْهُمْ تُرِيدُ زِينَةَ الْحَيَاةِ الدُّنْيَا وَلَا تُطِعْ مَنْ أَغْفَلْنَا قَلْبَهُ عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا وَاتَّبَعَ هَوَاهُ وَكَانَ أَمْرُهُ فُرُطًا. As Allah says in that beautiful verse, one of my favorite verses out of the Quran, as Allah tells Muhammad to remain patient along with those who call on their Lord in the morning, the prayers in the morning, also the afternoon, and also in the evening, etc. at night, those who constantly call on their Lord. And they turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, seeking his face only. And Allah said, do not allow your eyes to be bedazzled by the pomp and glitter of the life of this world, being distracted that this is all temporary, it's mu'akkad, and that it is not abad, it is not eternal, and that for that which Allah has and that which will come is eternal, and this is not eternal. So you shouldn't kill yourself over it. You shouldn't become depressed over it. You shouldn't fight over it. You shouldn't, hate one another over it. You shouldn't be jealous of despite another individual because of this temporary dunya that withers away, just like the barren land that becomes fruitful and plenty. We see the trees, it's blossoming. We see all of these different things, but then a certain time and a certain period, the trees dry up, the leaves fall out. That's exactly how the dunya is. So one moment is beautiful, the next minute is dry and it becomes dead. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala reminds us of that. He's telling Allah, he tells the Prophet, then he says, وَلَا تُطِعْ مَنْ أَكْفَوْنَا, and don't obey the one who we have caused his heart to be heedless of our remembrance. There is no way in the world. I know that we do it. I know that I do it. We all fall short, and we need one another to pick one another up, but we should not believe that the people who are disobeying Allah and worshiping other than Allah and calling on other than Allah, no matter what they have accomplished in the dunya, that they are the ones who are successful, that they are the ones who have an understanding of life. We should never believe that. They are not our leaders. We should never take them as our leaders because it doesn't make sense. As Allah Jalla tells us, وَلَا تُطِعْ, he tells the Prophet ﷺ, he's telling the Ummah, وَلَا تُطِعْ مَنْ أَكْفَوْنَا قَلْبَهُ عَنْ ذِكْرِنَا, and do not obey he whose heart we cause to become heedless of our remembrance, وَكَانَ أَمْرُهُ فُرُطًا, and his affairs is scattered. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَاسْتَعِينُوا بِالصَّبْرِ وَالصَّلَاةِ إِنَّ اللَّهَ مَعَ الصَّابِرِينَ. Allah Jalla wa'ala says, and seek aid, patience, and perseverance. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in salat, seek aid, perseverance, through patience and salat. And Allah is along with those who are patient, those who endure patience. So continuing, alhamdulillah, he offered that they be what? Muwahideen. He asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make the offspring Muwahideen, those who worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala alone, and then make them those who establish the prayer. إقام الصلاة من الخاص وأفضل العبادات الدينية فمن أقامها كان مقيما لدينه. This is important. And I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive me for all my shortcomings when it comes to the prayer. Ameen. Oh Allah, forgive us for all our shortcomings when it comes to the prayer. Ameen. Look what the Shaykh is saying here. He says that establishing the prayer is something that is more specific, right? So we should pay attention, right? Because it is the most virtuous of the acts of worship that can be done, right? And interestingly enough, the word salat linguistically, from its root meaning, it means dua. So a person, technically speaking, is making invocation to Allah Jalla wa'ala with salat, period. All right, even though there's different aspects of the prayer, physical aspects, but that's what it is. But he says it's the most best, it's the most virtuous acts of worship within the deen, right? And that this is the kicker. فَمَنْ أَقَامَهَا كَانَ مُقِيمًا لِدِينِهِ. Whoever established it, that person's deen will be well established. So in other words, if you are slacking or lacking or falling short within establishing your prayer, then that's where you are at in regards to your deen. Your deen cannot be stable, it cannot be 100% correct, it cannot be any of those things if your prayer is falling short. You cannot be deceived or be delusional or be under any illusion that your deen is still intact if you don't pray. This is why we have to understand the order. And all of the ahadith that is authenticated to the Prophet ﷺ, when he talks about the 5 pillars of Islam, you never ever see the order being rearranged. It's the shahada and salat. That never changes. You might see Ramadan, you might see zakat changes throughout the different authenticated hadiths, but you will never ever see the order of salat. Shahada and salat. It's shahada and salat comes immediately after it. Because the ulama, they mentioned that the shahada is the foundation, but the salat is what actualizes that foundation. So a person who says they believe, then if you truly say you believe, then you will pray, and that will all line up together. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us of those who establish the prayer. Ameen. He goes on, he says, here, get ready to finish this up. He goes on, he says, he says, فَجَعَلَ أَفْئِدَةً مِنَ النَّاسِ تَهْوِي إِلَيْهِمْ, and make the people incline towards them, make their hearts incline towards them. In other words, cause the creation to love them, cause the creation to love them and to incline towards them, to have an affection towards them, to not have animosity and hatred towards them. So he making a tremendous dua for his offspring, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala not only make them of those who will connect themselves to him, but also make the creation around them also supportive and affection towards them. That's tremendous, right? That's tremendous. He says, أي تحبهم وتحب الموضوع الذي هم ساكنون فيه, meaning he's making in his dua that he caused the creation to love them, to like them, and they like the place in which they reside in. Okay, and that's the place we said. فأجاب الله دعاه فأخرج من ذرية إسماعيل محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. And we know that Allah Jalla wa'ala has heard and answered Ibrahim's dua here, because he brought forth from his loins, his offsprings, which was Ismail. From that line, he brought Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, حتى دعا ذريته إلى الدين الإسلامي, and to the point when Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was commissioned to call the people from the offspring, to call them to the deen of Islam. Alhamdulillah. وإلى ملة أبيهم, and called them to the millah, the deen of their father, who was Ibrahim. فاستجاب له وصاروا مقيم الصلاة. And Allah Jalla wa'ala has, and he says here, فاستجاب له, answer him, and they were those who were persistent upon establishing the prayer. وافترض الله حج هذا البيت الذي أسكن به ذريات إسماعيل إبراهيم, وجعل فيه صراع عجيبا جانبا للقلوب, فهي تحجه ولا تقتدي منه وترى على الدوام. We see this constantly, alhamdulillah, even with satellite and internet and everything that's going on now with technology. You can also just go on and turn on, and you can see what's going on in Mecca as far as the Hajj and as far as the Umrah that constantly goes around. You see people circumambulating and going and visit this sacred place. Alhamdulillah, we see what Allah Jalla wa'ala did, so we know that Allah have answered the dua of Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam in regards to his offsprings, right? He says, بَعْلْ كُلَّمَا أَكْدَرُ عَبْدُ تَرَدُّ إِلَيْهِ ازْدَهَدُ شَقْهُ وَعَظَمَ وَلَعَبُ وَقُوَهُ. And if Allah bless you, and I ask Allah subhanahu to bless you to visit his house, if you are one of those who are able to visit his house, alhamdulillah, meaning you're able to go to Mecca and visit the Kaaba and the sacred precinct, alhamdulillah, you will notice if Allah make you of those who can return, every time that you return back to this place, your love increases. All right, you become more, you feel more invigorated. All right, it's definitely refreshing. Wallahi ta'ala, if you didn't have the chance, we ask Allah to allow you to have the chance to make Hajj, to make Umrah, inshallah, which is a lesser Hajj. And we sum it up, coming to the end of this tremendous dua of Ibrahim, walhamdulillah. So, Ibrahim goes on to say, رَبَّنَا إِنَّكَ تَعْلَمُ مَا نُخْفِي وَمَا نُعْلِنُ. All right? SubhanAllah. وما يكفي على الله من شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء. So he says, our Lord, indeed you know what we hide, what we concealed, and what we can revealed. Indeed you know that. You know our innermost secrets. You know what's in our hearts. You know what we try to conceal and keep away from the people's, the eyes of the people and the knowledge of the people. You know this, and you know what we also make known or make public. This is something that you know. And he says, وَمَا يَكْفَى عَلَى اللَّهِ وَمَا يَكْفَى عَلَى اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ. And there's nothing hidden from Allah Azza wa Jalla, not anything, whether it be in the earth or in the heavens. Whether it be in the earth or in the heavens. Meaning, أَنْتَ أَعْلَمُ بِنَا مِنَّا, meaning that you are the most knowledgeable concerning us, about us, than us. All right? You are most knowledgeable concerning us, about us, than us. فَنَسْأَلُكَ مِنْ تَدْبِيرُكَ وَتَرْبِيَتِكَ لَنَا. And we ask you, Allah Jalla wa'ala, to administrate our affairs for us and to make easy for us our affairs that we know of, that we've learned. وَالَّتِي لَا نَعْلَمَ مَا هُوَ مُقْتَضِي عِلْمَكَ وَرَحْمَتِكَ. And that which we do not know of, then it's left by that which is your knowledge and your mercy. وَمَا يَكْفَى عَلَى اللَّهِ مِنْ شَيْءٍ فِي الْأَرْضِ ولا في سماء. ومن ذلك هذا الدعاء الذي لم يقصد به خليل إلا خير وكثرة الشكر لله رب العالمين. And the Shaykh brought a point here. He says that this particular dua that was emanated from Ibrahim alayhi salam is not to be understood here that was emanated from the Khalil, meaning Ibrahim was the most beloved to Allah Azza wa Jal, just as Muhammad is, which is known as, they both was known as Khalil to Allah, Khalil Rahman. That is not to be understood that its only intent is for good. Kept up to shukr, an abundance of thankfulness or appreciation to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to go to all that exists. And he ends the dua with these next two lines of statements. He says, Alhamdulillah alladhi wahaba li ala al-kibri Ismail wa Ishaqa inna rabbi li sami'i ad-du'a. Tremendous. He says, Alhamdulillah alladhi wahaba li ala kibri Ismail wa Ishaqa. So then he acknowledged and praises Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the fact that he have granted him to have children in old age. All right, he allowed Ibrahim to have children in old age, just like he did for his Zachariah wife who was barren. And Zachariah was old, and he allowed him to have Yahya, which shows us that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in control of who have children and who doesn't, which sometimes mankind doesn't understand that, and they can never understand it no matter how much technology that they come across, which is only going to mention Allah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala allows people to have kids, right? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala also, interesting enough, assigns what's going to be their sex, whether they're going to be male or female. That is not a haphazard decision. That is not left to physics or to, as you say, to biology, to just grow as an organism. And no, all of this stuff have a design, a purpose, a wisdom. So Allah Jalla wa Ala knows who's going to be a male and He knows who's going to be a female. All right. So once He grants that and allow the angel to blow the spirit from that He created, then He also knows whether or not that child is going to be a male or a female. All right, which is important to understand. So here he says, he's praising Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for the fact that He have granted him children or offspring in his old age, right? Recognizing that this is a fadl from Allah, and that it is from the akbaru ni'mah, the greatest of favors that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala conferred upon. وَكُنُوا عَلَى كِبْرَ فِي حَالِ إِيَاسْ مِنْ أَوْلَادٍ نِعْمَةِ الْأُخْرَى. Right? Because in this time of what we will perceive weakness, when you're getting old, right? Your body starts to regress, you start to return a little bit. Well, we can see it as a time of weakness and stuff like that. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless you to have children. Now, so not only that, Allah Jalla wa Ala makes from these offsprings prophets who are righteous, ajal wa afdal. Right? In Rabbi al-Sami' dua, and we know that, my Lord, you are indeed the one who hears dua. Allah Jalla wa Ala hears dua. This is similar to the statement we say in the prayer, Sami Allahu liman hamida. Allah hears the one who praises Him. There's no doubt that you can never actually ever doubt that. As we said earlier in this talk, in this dars, there is not a dua, whether from a Muslim or a non-Muslim, except Allah heard it. As regards knowing as a believer whether Allah is going to answer it or not, then we know that as long as there's no things which prevents it from being answered, Allah will answer it. Shortly, and we know that it's going to be answered in one of three ways from the hadith authenticated to the Prophet ﷺ, Abu Hurairah, who mentioned that the Prophet ﷺ mentioned that there are one of three ways that Allah will answer a dua. Either Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will grant that which a person wants, or Allah Jalla wa Ala will store it up for him at the hereafter, or that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala removes something that was going to cause harm to the individual. Right. It says here at the end of this tremendous dua, coming back again to the cream of the crop, رَبِّ اجْعَلْنِي مُقِيمَ الصَّلَاةِ وَمِنْ ذُرِّيَّتِي رَبَّنَا وَتَقَبَّلْ دُعَاءِ. Allah showing us the importance of salah, because He said this early on. When He offered dua for His offspring, He asked that Allah make him those who establish the prayer. Here He comes back and reiterates that same point. He said, "Oh my Lord, make me one who established the prayer." Look at the humility and the humbleness of Ibrahim, who was muwahid, and that of my offspring, رَبَّنَا وَتَقَبَّلْ دُعَاء, and our Lord accepted from us. Just because we do it doesn't mean that you accept it. Should never be naive to think that as well. All right? No matter how many good deeds, or despite how many good actions that you put forth, it doesn't mean that Allah will accept it. Remember, Allah knows your heart, He knows your intentions, He knows what you're doing, how you're doing it, and it's important that you understand it. So for everybody who wants to deviate from the fact that the Prophet ﷺ is to be followed and obeyed, whoever wants to belittle his sunnah and doesn't put any credence or give it any weight, then know that you are surely mistaken, because this clearly makes it clear that Allah Jalla wa Ala do not accept. Just because you do an action, it have to be up to Allah to accept. And one of the means of getting your dua, or not just your dua, but one of the means of getting things accepted within Islam, especially your acts of ibadah, is that it is restricted to following that what the Prophet ﷺ came with. Alhamdulillah. So the Shaykh, he says, ثُمَّ دُعَاء لِنَفْسِهِ وَذُرِّيَّتِهِ. Then he proceeds to offer dua for himself and for his offspring, right? By making this tremendous dua. Right? تقبل دعاء ربنا اغفر لي ولوالدي والمؤمنين يوم يقوم الحساب. That's the end of that dua. And when he says, oh our Lord, make me and my offspring of those who establish the prayer. Our Lord, accept our dua. Our Lord, forgive me and my parents and the believers on the day that the reckoning will be established. فَتَجَابَ اللَّهُ فِي ذَلِكَ كُلِّهِ. We know that Allah have answered him in all of that which he have asked. إِلَّا أَن دعاءه لأبيه إنما كان من موئدة وعده. I mean that, and except for the fact that that you see that the dua that was made for his father, that wasn't answered by Allah Jalla wa Ala for him, because of the simple fact that there was already a promise that was already made that his father was going to go astray. فَلَمَّا تَبَيَّنَ لَهُ أَنَّهُ عَدُوٌّ لِلَّهِ تَبَرَّأَ مِنْهُ. And when the issue was made clear to Ibrahim that his father was an enemy, a clear enemy to Allah Jalla wa Ala, he freed himself from him. ثم قال الله تعالى ولا تحسبن الله غافلا إلا وأفئدة هواه. And that part we're not really going to go into because that's not a part of the dua. But I wanted to just bring this to show us the beauty of dua. And if you are someone who is guided by Allah Jalla wa Ala to constantly make dua to Allah, to understand that is hope, that is tawakkul, as we said earlier, that is the best, strongest expression in the form of love, that is a connection that you have with your Rabb. Do never forsake dua. If you're a person who is deprived of making dua, notice that a person who is deprived of making dua is most definitely deprived of offering salat. Okay? You don't find an individual who offers salat deprived of making dua. Okay? They go hand in hand. If you find an individual who constantly, quote unquote, supposed to be praying, but don't make dua to Allah Jalla wa Ala, that's very hard for us. Either the person is praying physically and don't understand what he or she is actually doing with the prayer, but if a person is praying to Allah Jalla wa Ala in the way that it's supposed to be prayed, and he's praying both spiritually as well as physically, there's no way in the world that he would not make dua his best friend. And we see this throughout the seerah of the Prophet ﷺ. We know the Prophet ﷺ, as his wife Aisha radiallahu ta'ala informed that he would pray until he got blisters on his feet, and he will offer dua. We know from his friend Abu Bakr as-Siddiq that the Prophet ﷺ would pray long prayers at the end, as when the battle of Badr, before it commenced, the Prophet ﷺ made a tremendous dua where his cloak had fell, and Abu Bakr told him, indeed your Lord had heard you, and picked his cloak up for him, so forth and so on. So we know that dua is the best friends of the prophets and the messengers, so dua should be our best friend as well. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala especially to allow us to make dua. And one of the strongest dua we should be making now is رَبَّنَا بَلِغْنَا شَهْرَ رَمَضَانَ. Oh Allah, allow us to reach the blessed month of Ramadan, and also allow us to take the advantage of the blessed month of Ramadan, and allow us to die upon Islam. Whatever we said that was incorrect today in our talk and our translation of the tafsir is definitely from ourselves, and the shaitan whatever said is correct from Allah Jalla wa Ala. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdik, ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta, astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Jazakallah khairan, brothers and sisters, for tuning in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah.